the one I want to show you is this one, ED330. So you can start with a Windows 10 or Windows 11 machine. In fact, I think it should say that. Let me refresh the page. Right. Oh, yes, I've seen this happen before. I need to change the date. This may happen to you. You have to go to Adjust Date and Time, and there is some way to sync now. Here we are, sync now. There we go. Time synchronization failed. Oh, I remember this. It likes to complain about the network connectivity. And I think the only cure is to do a system restart when it gets like this. This is Microsoft for you. It tends to be like this. Let me just restart this virtual machine. That should get it to actually fix the clock. It seems to be a problem, at least with my Windows 11 on ARM64, which is technically a developer preview or something. I think it probably has to do with the network drivers on ARM64. It's commonly the problem. Okay, so now I should be able to, I don't remember what I was trying to do. I'm probably just trying to load the instructions for the project. I'm just going to load them outside there anyway. We don't need them inside the virtual machine. So I'm going to go here. All right, let's load the instructions for the project out here. Oh, I'm going to need them inside there anyway because I need to copy code examples out of it. All right, let's get Firefox and go home, which should be my page, and don't import anything. Okay, now it's loading pages. All right, so it's 127, projects, and this is the first .NET project, which is here, C#.NET. All right, so you need to get Visual Studio 2022, and I did, I think, make a, I wanted to refresh this page. There we are. You can use Windows 10 or 11 or Windows Server or on Windows 11 ARM, which is what I'm going to use. And I did write an earlier version of this for Visual Studio 2019. If you're using one of my old images that has that on there and you prefer, you can do it that way. Microsoft moves the menus and everything around in every version, so it's pretty confusing if you use the wrong version. But anyway, I downloaded and installed Visual Studio 2022 on here, and there's steps here how to do that. So once you've got that, you can then launch Visual Studio. So if I go here, I think I can just search for it. Yeah, Visual Studio. Yes, right. Visual Studio 2022 comes up here. All right. And so you're going to create a new project. And let me go look at my instructions to make sure we get the right one here. Now, make a new project, and you want to make sure you make a console app for .NET. Remember, you could make an app. You could write like C#, you can compile it all the way down to machine code and tie it to one processor. What we want to do here is use .NET. So I go to the console, this one here, console app for .NET. And that's why now it can in principle run on Windows, Linux, and Mac OS, although I think in practice there isn't really any .NET runtime except on Windows. So then next, and it's going to have a default name, which is fine, I don't care, and a default location, which is fine. And create. Let's go back to the instructions. Whoa, all right. Okay, it'll create the thing and then we can run it. The thing it creates is a Hello World app, console.writeline Hello World. And this looks more like Visual Basic to me than C#, but it is a CS, so I don't understand how C# can be missing all the curly braces and stuff. But anyway, this is the default app, and you can run it right here with the Run button, and that will launch it in a debugger. You see it build started. It's doing something about building. You can see down here whether it succeeds or not. It did succeed. It opened this window, and now it's going to run the program in that window, and there it prints Hello World. and then it lets you press any key to close the window. So it printed hello world. That's all the default app does, which is very nice. Instead of starting with a blank app, it starts you with a simple app that prints hello world, so you've got something to start from. Okay, now we're going to put in some string manipulation code. We're going to make a short string. We're going to read data from the console and then write out whatever it just read. So I'm trying to make a buffer overflow. I make a string that's only 5 characters long, then I read from the console without limit, and then I print the results. So this would logically create a buffer overflow. Let's see if that works. I copy. Now I go in here, Control A should select it all, delete gets rid of it, Control V pastes that stuff in. Okay, so now I've made my short string, which I then read, so now I'm going to run this one. And again, it builds it. It's ready to go. It opens this window. Now it's waiting for input from me. So I put in a lot of A's. Something like 40 or 50 should be enough to overflow things, you would think. You certainly would if this was compiled C code. So there's a lot of A's. Now I press enter, and it just replies back, you said it, and it doesn't crash, because this is not compiled machine code that would have that vulnerability. .NET is a higher level language like Python, and it doesn't have this limitation on the size of the string. However, let me get rid of this garbage. All right, so it does not crash. However, you can use something called unsafe code, and then it will have a buffer overflow. So here's the code that demonstrates that. So I take this out of here, delete that, and I put in this stuff. This has more proper C-looking code. I define a main. Here's a string equals short. Then I read the line, then I print it, and then I call buffer overflow down here, and in the buffer overflow is a subroutine, and here I have allocated only room for 10 characters, and I copy it into there, just to make a buffer overflow for length greater than 10. And I did that by having static unsafe, an unsafe type function, which is going to not include whatever protections .NET has to prevent this. So I've started the build. Now it's going to refuse to build because it has unsafe code, and by default you can't use unsafe code. So I'm going to say no. In order to use unsafe code, you have to turn on an option, and it tells you that here. Yep. You have to do project console app properties and on the build tab. So it's project console app properties, and on the build tab, there is a checkbox to allow unsafe code, and there it is. They really don't want you doing this, so they make you find this place to go in and permit it if you really want to do it. And now I should be able to run that program. I can close this property sheet. There it is. Now I should be able to run it here. So it's building. It's not popping up an error message. Here comes the box. I can now type in a long string. Isn't it ready for me? There it is. Okay. Again, if I put in something like 40 or 50 A's, and now it crashed. It exited with a code. So this is it crashing with an error code. And that's just showing you how you can overcome the defenses that prevent buffer overflows in .NET. Now we're going to do, not going to make a console .NET app, which is a command line app like that. We're going to make a form. So we make a new project, and this time we want a Windows form app.NET. So let me go there. I close this debugger, and now I do File, New, Project. And I want a form app. Well, I have to scroll down to find it. Okay, fair enough. Now, I could hunt for it this way, but I think what I'm going to do is, thought I could choose .NET up here somewhere. I guess not. I only care about Windows, what that's worth. All right, I'm going to leave it back to all right, let's go back to my instructions. I want to find Windows Form App. Okay, I'll just hunt for it. There's probably some way to zero in on it, but I'm not going to. There, Windows Form App. I saw one. Windows Form App.net. This is the one. Okay, good. Now I go next. I'll take the default name and the default version of .net. I don't care about any of that. And this should build a form. All right, it has built a form. This is the graphical form you can work with, and the way you use the form is you drag things onto it from the toolbox. So you have to view the toolbox. So it's going to be View Toolbox and then expand Common Controls. So it's View Toolbox. Okay, and here's Common Controls here, and all we're going to use is a few of these common controls. So I'm going to drag this to the side and go back to my instructions. Okay, drag a label and call it password, a text box, and then a button and call it enter. So label, text box, button. So here's a label. Okay, and I call it password. Okay, and it looks like I lost a letter. By the way, that happens to be something to do with the process of getting to it fouls up. If you want to fix it, you can click on this, and then down here in the corner, you see the properties of it, and here's the text. You can add the text here. For some reason, it skipped the first letter. This happened to me last time I did it too. There, you can put it there, and now it has password. So that's the label. Now the next thing I need is a text box, which is this. Okay. That's a place you can enter the password. And then I need a button, which is going to be the enter button. So I drag a button in, and I want that to say enter. I'm going to double click on it. Maybe that'll let me change the name. Nope, that puts me somewhere stupid. I don't know how to change the text. There's some way to do it, but anyway, I can do it on here to change it. This is the only way I can control it. Put enter. There. All right. So now, there's my glorious app I have created. It lets you enter a password and enter, but I don't have any logic yet, so the only button that does anything is enter, so that's where I'm going to put my code. Let me go back to my instructions. All right, so you double-click enter, and you put in this code. That's the action. So double-click this button. Now you can put in code, and you don't just delete the old code, you have to add that in here in the button click method. It builds a template, so you're ready to do something when the button is clicked down here, but you have to tell it what to do, so I paste in this stuff. And so if the text is top secret, you win, and otherwise you fail. That's all my app does. Now, I think I'm ready to just run my app. Yep, run it, and we'll see what it does. Run it up here. It's building it. You can see it down here. And I think it's still working on it. Here it is. There's my app. So I have if I put a Q in there and press enter, it says fail. But if I put in the right password of top secret, then it says win. So that's all this app does, but it's an example of a simple .NET app. All right, now, and now you can find a flag just by getting the properties of the app. You have to find a location and get the properties. So that's all there is to this one, where you get to see how people write .NET apps and how to create them. And next we're going to reverse a .NET app. So I'm going to stop this video and make a separate video for that. And let me first stop the video.